Hey, welcome back guys. So in this one we're looking at number 6, which is conditions. Yes, so let's look at what conditions are. Now in a simple terms, conditions are what allow computers to make decisions. So depending on the condition, the computer will do one thing or the other. So this is how you tell it which direction to go depending on the situation, right? So let's come back here and let me remove everything that's in here for now, except maybe the div. Let me remove that and that as well. Actually, let's remove everything. Yes, begin from scratch. Let me close this div because I've just left it open. All right, so we have a div here, container, and we have some JavaScript tags. So let's refresh our page. So now what I want to do is I wanted to show one thing or the other depending on the situation. So now the situation should always, not always, but mostly it should resolve to true or false for it to be considered a valid condition. So in order to use a condition, you use the keyword if. So there are two ways to do conditioning. So depending on the situation, you might use one or the other. So one has a keyword of if, and the other one has a keyword of switch. Switch, like so. Yes. So let's begin with the if statement. It's much simpler. Okay. So now the if statement goes like this. Let's imagine we have a variable. So I'll create a variable there and say variable condition, something like that, is equal to true. So let's set it to true, just like that. It's true. So true is a type in JavaScript which is called a Boolean. So you have a string like this, and you have a number, and you have a floating point number. A floating point number is any number with a decimal. That's a floating point number. And then you have true, you have false, and you have no. What else do we have? Okay, we have undefined. So no and undefined are kind of similar there. And then there's true and there's false. These are called Booleans, like this. Boolean. So it's either true or false. So usually when you run a condition, it should evaluate to either true or false. Or let me just put something like number here so that I don't confuse the true or false. So let's set a number to 8, for example. Okay, so that number is equal to 8. Now we'll ask the question if, and then we do this. So in here we put a condition. So the condition should evaluate to either true or false. And then if that condition is true, then the code in here will run. If this evaluates to false, this will not run. So here what I want to do is show an alert and say alert. Let's put the word accepted, maybe, just so we can see. So I want to ask the question number over there. So say if number. Now this is a valid condition here. So if I just put and say if number like this, all I'm asking is that does number contain a value of any kind? So for as long as number contains a value that isn't 0, okay, as long as the value in there is not 0, it's not null, it's not undefined, for as long as it's anything other than that, then this is considered true. So that will be true, then this will run. So because number is equal to 8 it's greater than 0, it's not 0. So any number, even -8, will do here. So let's see if this actually works. So let me refresh and I see accepted, right? So let's try -8 there. And it's accepted. So like I said, as long as it's not 0. So let's try 0 now. Refresh and we don't see anything. Let's try 1. We should see something now. Okay. So now why is 0 so special? Well, that's because true or false are equal to 1 and 0. So you can replace those two and they work the same. So if you want to represent true, you can use 1, and if you want to represent false, you can use 0. So now any number though, as long as it's not 0, anything that isn't 0 and isn't null is going to be considered true. So let's try and put a no there. Say if no, refresh, nothing, you see? And then if we try undefined, let's see there, refresh, and we don't see anything. So undefined and null are kind of the same thing. But if we say is true like this, if true, that will work. But if we say if false, then it won't work. So that's the idea. Okay? So anything that you put in here must either turn into a false or a true. So here let's put a condition that we can actually evaluate. So if I say if number is equal to, now that is how you tell it to equate, because if you put one equal sign like this, it means you are getting this value and pushing it in there. But when you put two equal signs, it means you're asking the question, are they equal? Now you can put 3 like this. Now if you put them 3 of them like that, then you're also asking if the type is the same. For example, in an example where you're trying to evaluate if 1 is equal to 1 like this, this will evaluate to true. These are equal, right? But if I put inverted commas like that, they are still equal. In a way, you to consider these guys as equal. So let's try that, and you see it to say accepted. But if I put 3 of them, then it becomes more strict. It will ask, it will even compare. If this is a number and this is a string, so it will say, these guys are definitely not equal. So it doesn't run, you see. That's the difference. So if you don't want it to be so strict, just use 2. But if you want it to be very strict, then you use 3. Okay. So number is equal to 8. Is this true or false? Yes, number is 8. Now you can also ask if number is greater than 8, or number is greater or equal to 8, like this. This is greater and equal to, greater or equal to. So this will run, definitely, it's true. Or you can use less than and equal to 8, and that will run. If I say less than or equal to 3, this will be false. Okay, so I think you get the picture here. So these are the operators here: greater than, less than, equal to, or I think that's about it. These are the ones that determine the condition that you are asking. Now you can add several conditions here. So I can say if number is less than or equal to 3, and say and, okay, that adds 2 items there, and number, or let's put let's see, number is equal to 8, like this. So let's see if that actually works. It doesn't, but let's inspect the element. I'm actually not sure. Okay, so syntax error, missing bracket, that's what it's saying. Well, that's because and is like this, should be written like that, 2 ampersands, like so. So let's refresh. Okay, there we go. So what I'm saying here is that if number is less than or equal to 3 and, so both of these must be true for this to be accepted. If I want only one of these to be true, I will use the OR symbol, and that one is the double pipes like that. The pipe is found on the slash key under the backspace. You have to use shift key there. So it works now because as long as one of these is true, then it's going to work. Now you can chain these as many as you want, or this or that or that. And then the important thing is, if you want certain parts to be evaluated first, you put them in brackets like so. So then it will start by evaluating this and then checking if that's true. Okay. Now, one more thing is that, let's say if number is equal to 10, right? Now, if you want one part to run and then you run something else, if this isn't true, then you put else there like so. So let's copy this and put there, and we say not accepted. Okay, so refresh, not accepted. So depending on this condition, we can either go this way, that way, or that way. And then if you want even more if statements here, you can add some more. So I can do this and say else, put a space and say if, and then I can run another query here like so. So there I will say alert greater. Now keep in mind that only one of these can run at a time. So if this one runs, then the rest will not. If this one runs, then the rest will not. If you want them to run separately, you can just separate them and not use else. Just put another if statement like that, and then they'll be separate. But like this, only one can run. So here I will say number is greater than 8, or maybe than 4, something like that. So here greater is accepted. Okay, so that's how you use the if statement to give conditions on which way to actually go. But then let's try the other one, which is switch. So I'm just going to say switch. So switch, and it's written like this, brackets, just like the if statement. So you have the switch, and then you have the condition, and then you have the brackets where things happen. But in this case, you can say switch, and then you put case like this, put a the condition that you're looking for. Let's say in this case, I want to test if number is 8. So I'll say if 8, case 8, and then full colon there, like that, okay? And then leave a space like this, and then put another case. You don't have to leave the space there, but of course, 9, and then case 10, okay? Now the thing is, I've actually never tried the greater than or less than. I don't think this works here at all. So if I come back here to so switch, you put your condition there. Now you don't really put a condition in here, you put a variable instead. So the thing that you want to evaluate, that's what you put in there. Okay, so in here, instead of if this is equal to that, no, it says switch number is number equal to 8, and so on. So let's see if the greater than or less than will work there. I've actually never used it that way. Yeah, so it doesn't actually work. So this one, the difference is that you see in the if statement, you can ask things like, is 8 greater than 5 or 8 greater than this? But in here, you have to be very specific. Is it equal to? So it's always about equating to something. So is it equal to this? Is it equal to that? So there are situations where switch works well, but if statement doesn't work well. Or there are places where the if statement is the best and switch doesn't function very well. For example, like the example we had before, this would not work well with a switch statement, okay, because this has to be hard coded. So now let me show you something neat here. So I'll say let's use the console this time. So it's a console.log, and let's say 8, something like this. Okay, so now I want to copy that, put it here. So you don't have to tab it in like this. This text can be there, it doesn't really matter. It will still run as intended. So that one is 9, this one is 10. Let's see which one of these will show. So switch number, so we are evaluating number. Is number is equal to 8? If is number equal to 8, then this will run. Is equal to 9, this will run. Is equal to 10, this will run. So let's now refresh while looking at the console. Now if you notice here, all of them have run 8, 9, 10, right? As if number 8 is equal to 9 and 10 as well. Well, the interesting thing is that with case, you have to actually tell it if you don't want all of them to run. So for example, let me ask if it's equal to 9 in this case, right? Now if I refresh, you see that 8 did not run, but 9 and 10 did, because for the moment it got to one that was true, then it ran the rest of them. This is what happens. So when it gets to that number, run the rest of them as well. If it gets to this one is true, it will run everything from there. So you have to tell it if you don't want that behavior by saying break here, like so. So I'll copy that, break there, and break there. Okay, so in this case we have console break, 8 break. So what will happen now is when it finds one, it's going to break from these. So let me refresh, and you see now it only got 9, and then if I put it at 8, I will only get 8. Okay, now you cannot only test numbers, you can also test words, say food. Okay, or you can test a condition. Just set the condition here so that this one is either true or false, and then you check for true, check for false, and so on. So food, so here then I would have to put quotations and say food, like that, and leave the other ones. So let's see here, and then 8 will show. And then there's one last where you put default, sorry there. Now the default runs if you didn't find any that was true there, then it's going to run, let's say default, like so. So if none of these are true, the default will run. So if I put a 2 there, so that it's not true to any of these, the default is actually running.